Hi, I'm Dr. Walter Matwichuk, and the purpose of today's intermittent reinforcement email message is to talk to you about the key factors in achieving therapeutic change using REBT. I've given thought to some of the key factors. I think there are about 7, and I'd like to go through them with you. The first factor, whether you're working with a psychotherapist that's trained in REBT or using REBT on your own to make changes, is that you need to achieve an accurate understanding of the core ideas. REBT is concept heavy, and in order to effectively use this well-packaged collection of ideas and strategies, you have to understand what these ideas really are, and then you can begin to implement them effectively. Now, this doesn't take months of study, but it is important for you to give thought to how you can best learn some of these ideas. And there's a couple different ways you could do that. The cost-free way is to go to my website, rebtdoctor.com, and take advantage of all the audio and video you find there. And you could listen to this on your drive into work, or you can listen to this while you're doing the dishes and have these ideas playing in the background, and until you really hear them a couple times and begin to understand what REBT ideas are really about. You can add to that learning if you're in psychotherapy by reading the REBT Pocket Companion for Clients, second edition, which me and my good friend Dr. Wendy Dryden wrote. This book is for people in therapy, and it introduces the ideas in a gradual and incremental way. I think it's a very well-organized exposition of REBT ideas, and it's very succinct. And so it's a nice little companion to use when you're in therapy. Another way you can deepen your understanding of some of these core ideas is to take advantage of some of the great self-help literature that's out there. Albert Ellis wrote a number of good books, as did Dr. Dryden and many other people. The 2 favorites that I really like are How to Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable About Anything. Yes, anything. That book helped me write my dissertation. And the other one is How to Make Yourself Happy and Remarkably Less Disturbable. I think both of those are very good books. Another good one is How to Get Over Getting Older. That's written by Albert Ellis and the late Emmett Velton, a very good REBT therapist. But these are some of my favorites, and they all will teach you the core ideas, which I think will lead to what we call intellectual insight. But of course, that's insufficient for making therapeutic progress. That just lays the foundation. In order to make therapeutic progress, you need to then define goals, set goals, and define them clearly so you know whether or not you're making progress, and then to troubleshoot what might be blocking you from making progress. So, for example, you can specify emotional goals or behavioral goals. So, for example, if you think of the ABC model, right, you can list a couple of the core adversities that you tend to get angry about, okay? And then you could say something like, well, I want to not display unhealthy anger as frequently, as intensely, or for as long a duration as I would normally. And progress will mean having the ability to respond to adversity without engaging in unhealthy anger. And I'll start by trying to do that with less frequency. And when I do get upset, I'll try to use the ABC model to reduce the intensity, and then, of course, have healthy anger. So that's one way of thinking about progress, is to look at the frequency, intensity, and duration of your goal. Now, another way you could look at progress is to look at it from a behavioral standpoint. And you could say things like, well, what I want to do is I want to be more assertive. And when I have a thought where I disagree with someone, I'm going to work to express my thought. And you could say that the progress there would be the increasing the frequency, intensity, the frequency of your assertive behavior. If you have a goal towards changing a behavior in the domain of like exercise, well, then you could specify how many times you're going to go to set a goal for going for a walk. I'm going to walk every day or every other day for 30 minutes. To make your goals realistic and achievable, make them clear, because one of the factors in change is to have a goal, work at it, troubleshoot when you are not making progress, and then stay with the goal but revise the plan. Now, another factor which I think is very important in using REBT is to monitor your emotional reactions. People have to become aware of when they display self-defeating emotions and self-defeating behaviors, because it is in those instances when you're going to call upon the ABC model and work to implement it. So the first step in change is to monitor when you begin to display unhealthy emotions or self-defeating behavior. And I often tell my patients in therapy, collect the adversities or the instances when you began to display self-defeating emotions and behaviors, bring in the details, and then we'll do an ABC analysis together. But what's even better than that is that you try to do the ABC analysis at home and then bring the worksheet in to me and we can go over it. Now, getting people to do these worksheets is not easy. People really resist them. And I've been giving a lot of thought as to how to get them to do them. It might be better if you just not use the worksheet, but just commit to memory the letters A, B, C, D, and E, and understand exactly what the components are of the ABC model, and then on the fly try to implement an analysis of your emotional upset, because sometimes it may be impractical to take out a piece of paper and write A, B, C, D, E down and unpackage it that way, or it might be you don't like to use our worksheets, which are really good for helping you work your way through an emotional episode. So let's review the ABC model. A stands for adversity. That's the negative state of affairs that you're reacting to and having a problem with and showing your self-defeating emotions and behaviors. C stands for your emotional and behavioral consequences. Okay, the consequences. And these are the consequences not of the adversity, but of your basic attitude, B. So B stands for basic attitude. A, adversity, B, basic attitude, C, consequences. D in the ABCDE model stands for disputing. Disputing is where we ask questions and we challenge these rigid attitudes that REBT says lie at the core of emotional disturbance. So disputing is when you ask, is this attitude yielding good results or poor results? Disputing. Or you might ask the question, is it true? Do I really have to have people always treat me nicely? Or you might ask the question, does my rigid attitude, is this the attitude I would teach a child if they were upset? Or would I encourage them to think in a different way? And if the answer to that question is yes, that disputing question is yes, then what would that new way of thinking be? So disputing is a step that people like to gloss over, probably because they find it difficult to do. But it's an essential step. And then, of course, E stands for effective new philosophy or effective new attitude. And this is the attitude that you are going to change your basic attitude and transform that attitude into a more effective one. So, for example, if you're saying, I have to do perfectly well and getting yourself anxious, the effective new philosophy that you would teach a child would be, look, I want to do well, I'm going to try my best, but hey, I'm a human, I'm a fallible human. I don't have to do perfectly well. So E is the effective new philosophy that we want you to adopt and then practice. Now, when we talk about practice, I've developed this little metaphor, which I call psychological push-ups. And what I suggest you do is take some of the healthy attitudes that are meaningful to you. They may be attitudes like, I want to do well, but don't have to do well. People don't have to treat me nicely. And the world doesn't have to be easy and fair. And say them each day into a tape recorder, one at a time, 3 times, and then listen to that recording, because what that will do is help you to internalize these attitudes. And if you do it every day, you'll set the stage for thinking in a way that's consistent with these attitudes. Another thing you could then do is have them this way on the tip of your tongue at the ready, so that you will be able to utilize them when later in the day you find an opportunity to think in a healthy way, and you normally might not do that. And so by rehearsing these, doing these push-ups, if you will, in the morning, you'll have these healthy attitudes on the tip of your tongue for later in the day. Another thing I'd suggest people to do is teach REBT to other people. Now here you have to be careful, because if you teach REBT to people, don't push it on them, because it may very well be that they just want you to listen to them. And if that's all they want, do that. But if after listening to them, it appears as if they may be open to looking at things or thinking about things differently, you could talk to them a little bit about a healthy alternative attitude that that they may consider adopting. Now, you're not a professional therapist, but when you teach REBT to other people, you're very often deepening your understanding of it within you. And finally, I'd suggest that you watch every week the REBT Zoom conversations, the demonstration conversations I have with people at 9 a.m. on Saturday mornings, every Saturday. It's 9 a.m. in Philadelphia. What I've noticed is the people that watch these demonstrations are not in the hot seat, and they have a chance to observe other people struggle with these ideas. And what ends up happening is they end up learning a great deal. And I've noticed my patients who watch these Zoom demonstrations with regularity, their psychotherapy has just taken off. They have really made therapeutic gains much quicker. And I think if you're working with REBT on your own, you could watch these Zoom demonstrations and really ask the question, how do what I see occurring, how does that apply to me? And if you ask that question, you're like watching the demonstration actively. And then at the end of the demonstration, you can ask some questions that will build upon the observations you've made. Trust me, this works, and you can lie in bed with a cup of coffee, keep your screen off, and watch this week to week, and you'll see that you'll really make some therapeutic progress this way. Finally, what I would say is you have to be on guard for backsliding and be open to acknowledging it. Don't put down your tendency to backslide. Acknowledge it. This is a key factor in therapeutic progress. Don't get discouraged. Do an ABC analysis. Challenge the idea that progress has to be linear or progress has to be easy. But recognize that you need to do what works, and people will often stop doing their push-ups or stop getting out of their comfort zone, and the end result is that they tend to backslide, and unfortunately sometimes they'll conclude wrongly that they can't change when they really can. So these are the factors that I think really make a difference in therapeutic change, whether you're working with a professional therapist or by yourself. And I hope that you will join me on Saturdays at 9 a.m. That's 2 p.m. in the UK For my Zoom demonstrations, I think that's 4 p.m. in Bucharest, and in Moscow 4 p.m. and 6:30 in India, 10 p.m. in the UK, and 11 a.m. in Australia. It's free to attend. Ask a friend to join you, and you will learn quite a bit about REBT by watching other people struggle to learn it. Thank you for attention, and I look forward to seeing you on Saturday.